Okay, I just looked at the last video I posted, and I had strung way too many things together over 15 minutes, and I just wasn't clear with everything. So I decided, not to mention I about went to sleep. So, by the way, doesn't this look like Meridian Frost? Okay, so what I'm wanting to say is this, and sorry to the 24 people that already watched the video before I decided to shut it down. Um, my criticism of you from the beginning is it's really weird because I feel as if you are accusing me of being an essentialist when in fact I want to reverse that and say, no, I believe you're the one that is an essentialist. But by this, I'm saying that every single time you use the word we, you're referencing all of humanity. And then you reference language. You say language as if language is has these rudimentary aspects to it necessarily, and that language is ubiquitous and universal, and that's how you're referencing it. That's your premise. And so I'm saying that you necessarily um, are associating certain aspects to language, and you're speaking as if, and you do this constantly, as if this is the only way language could possibly be. Now, here are these aspects. You're saying that their language includes onto theology. It includes counting and mathematics. It includes time binding in history. It includes episteme and telos. You haven't stated that one, but the whole idea of being able to embed or have a notion of embedding. And that language includes puns and logical reframings. So you'll take these aspects and you'll hold dear to them. As a matter of fact, this is where my criticism is that you will not shave them off. And I'm trying to say now, and this is not about oral noetics, which is more about sounds and clicks and whistles and the sort um, within oral languages that has meaning. And my point is not about that. It's about the fact that you necessarily ascribe those aspects to language every single time that you use language. And now we have a demonstrable, non-recursive language group culture that does not have a god, an ontotheology. It is not time bound in that they only reference their own history. They don't reference anyone else's history, ancestors and the sort. They don't count. They don't have mathematics. It's argued multiply whether or not they choose not to, or whether or not they have the words in order to implement it. And they don't have puns. They don't have plays and reframings, and yet they're still human. And granted, I used the word inherited, and you were referencing Neanderthals and the sort. I didn't want you to do that because my point wasn't inherited in terms of genes. I'm trying to talk about being caught up within a language. Uh, if if I ask you to count to 10 and you have ordinal numbers up to 3, you certainly cannot count up to 10. And so and color, they don't have language that references color. Red, they say, is blood. Uh, Stuff like that. And so anyway, my point is that, um, and I had made some analogy. Oh, yeah, I had made some analogies in the last two, saying 6 soap bubbles put together such that they're all spheres, but there's a middle bubble that's a cube in the center, and that the Piraha language is like that. It's chopped down. It does not have the circular robustness. It does not have the recursivity of these rest of these languages. And so every time that you make these general claims, it's as if you're overlooking this new evidence. And this is fairly new evidence, and it's laid out right before us. Now, it's a subtractive culture, apparently. It appears limiting. But then, if that is the case, if you investigate that, and please just look it up, please just go watch the guy's video or read up on this a little bit, because perhaps it will shave down some of these necessary attributes that you keep putting forth. Now, you keep playing onto this. See, the problem is that you're telling us about a culture, right? But that you're the one telling us about this. See, language is time back, and right, that language is, and you're going to go ahead and tell us what it is, and it's going to include one of these attributes. I am within one of the more robust languages. I'm within a recursive language. I have embedding. We have mathematics. We have atelos. We have ontotheology. We have uh, uh, all these aspects. Okay, and the reason I connect you with Chomsky is because of that same thing. He has got a notion that appears to be a definition of universal grammar, a specific aspect list that he is trying to state is universal to all languages. Now, I'm not arguing for a private human language, but Husserl's eidetic realm references inaccessibility to language and how that is like a private language. It's not to say we can't uh, uh, stick a straw through the bubbles and permeate into the language. It's not to say that we can't go talk to these humans and find measurable aspects and learn the words that they're using. It's that once we get in there, we cannot play ball with them. If we throw the ball at them and say, look, we're going to teach them about Eskimo snow, and they're in the Amazon, first they won't have a reference, so they'll drop the ball then. And then even even if I try to explain the 14 different types of Eskimo and snow, assuming that's the case to you, Corey, and you didn't know it, and I say here they are, and you refuse to learn them or refuse to play ball with me, that might be a way to look at how it is they don't have that. They don't have it inherited within their grammatical structure, the grammatical setting itself, in order to engage one another about what happened to Fred on the porch 3 weeks ago. But Fred is a guy in a neighboring town that none of them ever met. They don't have that. They can't conceive it. They don't embed that. And that's the point, is it appears to me every time you talk for somebody that's in media ecology, somebody that where linguistics is so important, to find what I'll say is a shaved down version, kind of a non-dynamic interaction with some of the more some of the aspects of language that we have, because you won't engage, because you won't consider that the very rudiments of what it is you're going to say are ubiquitous might not be the case, because you keep overlooking that. That's why I get angry. That's why I get upset, is because, yeah, it's quite simply absurd. And so I want you to take a look at it, because you might have some reconsiderations about what you're saying is the case for language. And yeah, okay, so how to kind of go into specific detail about what you said. Do they have, because they can speak, do they have the capacity to enumerate? And it's argued that they do, but they choose not to. But that's similar to saying, if you don't have the numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I ask you to count to 10, are you going to just repeat, on a base 4 system? It's suggesting that they don't do that, that they say 1, 2, 3, not even meaning ordinal, just more like pointing off their fingers, and then it becomes bunch over there, something like that. When reference for their god, they don't engage that. Now, I'm not trying to give you a book report. I'll just put the video below. You look at it and maybe shoot me a couple emails about what it is you think this tribe, these groups, um, this lack of recursion found within a language might mean, right? And because what it is you're mentioning up until this doesn't bother me. It just, when I mention hierarchies also, because I belong in this culture, in this language, because we have recursion and all this, I'm suggesting, I have to, I'm embedded in social systems also. It's just that since I know that there's languages that do not innately have that, I realize part of the human condition, that the human condition does not innately have that, that is an extension, an extensive attribute that we have because we have recursive language, not because I'm a human. It's because I'm a human within a recursive language. Um, what else to say? I mean, I guess I could cut it short there. Uh, private, well, yeah, yeah. Chomsky believes that how do we understand grammar? We're different than the animals. And yeah, once again, I didn't want you to go into the Neanderthal thing with them because it wasn't about the genetic encoding, although that was an interesting point, I suppose. But more like there is a genetic aspect or a physiological aspect to our being that allows us to have language that is different than animals. And he says it's either that or it's magic. And then there's reconsiderations, like you said, in media ecology. Other people have referred to grammatical settings, behaviorist following patterns of models of rule systems where they eventually abandon the model, um, and the sort. And I don't know whether or not this is, whether or not I'm being clear as to what it is I'm mentioning there. I'm trying to cram everything into a couple of minutes. So, so yeah, that's my point. Is that I compare you to Chomsky because it's as if you want to say there is a innate mathematics that is a capacity within the brain, and and if so, if they have that, which I'm saying, if we have it, it's not found. They're incapable of counting. Therefore, if it's not in the grammar itself, if the mathematics is not in the grammar itself, they can't access it. We couldn't have done math prior to its advent. We couldn't understand a great many of these aspects that you're talking prior to the advent of them. And so basically, the whole point is that I'm criticizing the general ubiquitous nature of your approach towards language, and I think that you continue in a litany to do this, and it's discouraging to watch because it reinforces the idea that you're not familiar with the work of these anthropologists, and that you're just going to carry on um, making the claims, the very base root claims, and you're going to state them. And every time I hear you say "we" in terms of all humans, or language in terms of all language, it's so irritating because this is such a different kind of language. It is so remote, and its rules are of difference. Its differences are so much greater differences than the differences between English and Chinese, for example. And so I want you to consider that. Now I'll just see